nerds, what's up? I'm coming at you today with two more book reviews, mostly because these are two books that I've been recommended a lot and people have really wanted to see my reaction to. Now, every year, me and another creator, Leanna's Library, switch TBRs, which means I give her 4 books to read and she gives me 4 books to read, and then we talk about them. And we keep our ratings secret all month. So we both just did our lives revealing our thoughts on both sets of books that we gave each other. And this week over on her channel, I gave my reviews for the 4 books she gave me, but 2 of those books, like I said, are books that you guys have asked me a lot to read, so I wanted to make sure I did a dedicated review for them on my channel. If you want our complete non-spoiler discussion, you can go check out that live on her channel. But today I wanted the opportunity to do a quicker non-spoiler review for each book and then also have a section of spoilers because I felt like I couldn't really say my whole piece on that live since we were avoiding all spoilers. So with that being said, the first book I want to talk about today is Emperor of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio, which now that I'm saying that, Ruocchio? Oops, I'm sorry. But book 1 of the Suneater series, which has been recommended to me a million times. Overall, I ended up giving Empire of Silence 4 stars. I enjoyed a lot of it. I really enjoyed kind of the idea of the person who tells you where they end up and then looking back and seeing how they got there. I liked the exploration of a lot of the themes. I clearly saw its inspirations, especially its Dune inspiration, which is everywhere, but I still enjoyed that a lot. My main issues were that this book definitely dragged a little bit in the middle and kept feeling like a prologue, maybe a little bit too much. Like I kept kind of being like, this is a book where I'm waiting for the story to begin, and I felt like it could have tempered that a little bit. Additionally, at the end, I found our main character, Adrian, to be a little insufferable, and I can't wait to go into that more in the spoiler part. But overall, like in terms of just liking epic sci-fi, I thought it was a really solid entry. Now, because I gave it 4 stars and because of those issues I explained, I feel like I liked it enough to go on to book 2. But if I feel the same about book 2, I feel like I probably wouldn't continue the series. Like this wasn't strong enough for me to feel like I will for sure be finishing all 6 books I think that are in the series now, but strong enough for me to continue. So I have heard book 2 is much, much stronger. So I'm eager to give that one at least a chance and see if I like it more. Now I will be going into spoilers right now. So if you have not read Suneater, then just skip using the chapters to the next section in the next book. I've given you warning. Okay. So spoiler-wise, yeah, my big problem with the ending is I felt like Adrian kept acting like he only had one choice, and it just clearly wasn't the case. First, I thought it was really stupid to tell the Cielson that, no, you won't be harmed. Like, and Adrian kept being in his head like, oh, they won't be harmed, I'm gonna find a way. And it's like, no, you won't. Like, I've been here the whole time. Like, there's no way they aren't gonna punish them. Like, the Chantry isn't gonna punish these people. So I already thought that was kind of stupid, but you know, characters act in ways that aren't smart all the time. But then like his continued like, I have no choice to his friend, whose name I can't remember now, I feel bad. And like, I have to be complicit to this torture. And I was just like, there feels like a lot of options. Like you literally could just say, no, I won't, or translate things wrong, or pretend he said, like, it just felt like Adrian kept acting like there were only 2 options and there weren't. Now, like I said, characters often act in ways that aren't omniscient. And I always want to be really careful that I give an author the opportunity to create flawed characters like that, and often I will get frustrated when people don't allow characters to not always act in the smartest, most intelligent ways. However, it did not necessarily endear me to Adrian. And I feel like if in the next book there's like excuses or it seems like I'm supposed to be empathizing with Adrian's choices, I don't know if that is necessarily possible for me. However, I do also recognize this seems to be like a villain origin story. And so in that case, perhaps I'm supposed to feel this way. You guys can weigh in the comments. Like I said, this wasn't like some huge detriment. It just was hard to keep hearing over and over again, I only have one choice. I have no choice. And it's like, there like are a lot of like pretty basic options ahead of you, just in my opinion. I also think in this first book, the Dune comparisons were a little on the nose, like a little direct. So I would hope to see in book 2 the series go away from that. Now, there's a lot of books where that has happened, more particularly since I'm more of a fantasy reader with like Lord of the Rings. For example, Wheel of Time, Eye of the World definitely has a lot of Lord of the Rings influences, but then quickly moves away from that in later books. So once again, not like a huge detriment, but yeah, the Dune things were there. And so I hope to also see it maybe move a little past that in the other installments. But yeah, definitely gonna read book 2. The next is Guns of the Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which this was my first of his novels. And again, you guys recommend that author to me all the time. And I actually have Children of Time sitting up in my to be read pile. So I will get to that eventually as well. But this really impressed me as my first foray into his novels. I really, really liked it. And in fact, how I describe it is this is a 5-star book with a star taken off for the romance, which I had a lot of problems with. And again, I'm excited to talk about that in the spoiler section. But I was really surprised by how much I loved this because as you guys know, generally flintlock fantasy, things that involve guns, aren't what I'm naturally drawn towards. There are books I like with it, but it's just not what I naturally gravitate towards. But this one like totally sold me. I loved the unique environment of the war. I loved Emily as our main female character. I thought she was so well written and really nuanced and just like a full-fledged character. And the relationships you see her develop with other, I want to say members of her team, but that's not what you call it in war. Brigade. I just couldn't think of the right word. I thought were, again, well done and turned some tropes on their head and explored it in a new way. I also really liked the way this book explored propaganda. Overall, I just think it's a really solid fantasy book and would highly recommend it. Like I said, I highly, highly enjoyed it. My issues with the romance non-spoilery is just that I always have this issue with things that feel a little insta-lovey and also things that just don't feel explained, like the emotions. I can't quite rectify why one character fell in love with another. I'm very grumpy about romance in general. It's hard for me to like it. This romance that I didn't like, as I was reading it, I felt that this was a me problem. So I'll just say it. Like, I feel that a lot of people probably loved how the romance played out in that novel. So again, it's a me problem, but it is there and I can't not be me. So I did have a problem with that. A lot of people compared to Pride and Prejudice. I understand the comparison. I think the romance makes way more sense in Pride and Prejudice. I am a huge Jane Austen fan and I do love Pride and Prejudice. So I just don't necessarily think that, like, I understand the connection. I don't think it's as well written as Pride and Prejudice in terms of the romance, which is why I just don't really like that comparison. But overall, like I said, a 4-star book, but like a very, very solid 4 stars. And I think it's a great place to start with his work personally because I enjoyed it so much. So if you haven't started it, try. Editing Bookborn here. I feel like I made this book sound a lot more romantic than it is. You guys know I would never like a romance. This isn't a romance book. It does have a romance subplot, but it is not a romance book. So I don't want you guys thinking it is just because I chose to complain about the romance the entire time. I would say it's like, I don't know, Warbreaker, but maybe even less, where it's like there's a lot going on in Warbreaker, and yes, there is like a romance subplot. You know, it's like that. I would not call it a romance novel. Actually, it's probably less romance than Warbreaker. Now I'm rambling, but yep. Now, here's our spoiler section for Guns of the Dawn, so if you haven't read it, skip to the end, or I guess click off. Bye. So my big problem with the romance, like I said, I basically had no problem with anything else in this novel, is we never address the fact that he led her father to off himself. Like, I kept waiting for that to be addressed, and I thought it was gonna be addressed in like, this whole time I've been holding this secret in, and actually, that's not what happened. But nope, it's more just like she got over it without any like character development of that. And I just hated that. But also, like, you start so fully with her hating him, and then the switch happens with little to no explanation. I literally just kept being flummoxed at why she suddenly loved this man or thought she did. And like every time he showed up on screen, I complained to the friend I was talking to this book about. I complained every time, like, why does he have to show up on screen? Because the book gets bad every time. Now, I did love the letters between her and Northway. I think that was a really great device. I wish that he had written Mr. Northway differently so that I could like it. Because I just feel like I liked the idea of, okay, he's the only one she can be honest with. She's the only one she can tell the truth to in these complicated emotions that aren't pretty. Loved that. So I actually quite enjoyed the letters. But it was the fact that these letters were to him that I could just not get over because I could not understand the appeal. Now, at least with, oh my gosh, the names are out of my head. Wizard Boy, Scavian. I at least understood that more because, I don't know, in War you might just like someone hot. But even like the beginning of that felt so sudden. Like I remember even at that ball scene, I was like, are they starting a romance? Because like, that feels really sudden. I feel like that scene could have just been a little better. It could have been subtler. Like they have an interesting conversation. And then when she shows up on the front lines and he's there, they're like, oh, you're here. And then it starts. It's just like, it's all very intense very quickly. And again, during War, I can understand that happening, but it's because it started before War that felt weird to me. So it just annoyed me. And then unfortunately, the very end of the novel deals with Northway. Like the last sentence deals with this intense love. And the fact that her father and his relationship to Northway is just really never addressed, I could never get over. But that's the only thing keeping this from being a 5-star book. So, but I had to say my piece. Okay, those are some quick book reviews. Once again, if you want like the full discussion of these books, non-spoilery, you can check out Leanna Library's video. You can also check out the live I did last week with her of the books I gave her. And overall, yes, let me know if you've read either of these books, what you thought. I know in particular Suneater is one that a lot of you guys have read, and I am trying to read maybe a little bit more sci-fi. I used to read more and I haven't in a while, so it was kind of nice to get back in there. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading or other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.